Hi, I'm Tim Conrad, Public Information Officer with the Cariboo Regional District, here with Mike McCulley with the BC Wildfire Service. Mike, give us an update on the weather first.
Sure, thanks Tim. So the weather for today is fairly warm. We're warming up every day as we move forward. We did see some lightning over the past 2 days. Again, our initial attack crews are out there working hard at that. We did have some new starts yesterday and the day before. Today, so far, nothing new though, and all of those new starts have been kept relatively small. So the future of the weather looks like this. We were very lucky. We saw precipitation on all of our fires through the night last night, including Elephant Hill. They saw precipitation on portions of those fires. Again, a little less precipitation out west, but certainly enough to help us along. Going forward, I've talked about a high pressure ridge that's going to form over the fire center area. That's starting to happen today. So we will see a prolonged period here of warmer conditions. Not as much wind as we're seeing, which is great news from a fire suppression point of view, but definitely warming up quite a lot. And I just wanted to talk to him about some of the challenges that fall weather presents for our firefighting crews. We know that as you move out west, particularly, and in the north part of the Cariboo, we're starting to see temperatures down under freezing. One of the challenges that presents for us is in the overnight period, we see things get really cold and freeze up. So our firefighters, they have to, they're people, they need to be healthy, and they get cold at night. So we try to keep them warm, and there's some challenges with that in camp, obviously. We also start to see some of our fire equipment freeze up. We end up with frozen hoses and frozen water. So the cold fall temperatures do restrict our abilities a little bit. Beyond that, in this part of the world, we know that it can warm up quite a lot later in the day. So we can see very cold temperatures in the morning, followed by temperatures in the mid-20s in the afternoon. And certainly, if you're out on the ground as a firefighter, that's tricky. It's cold in the morning, you're fighting to get your gear unthawed and do your business. By the end of the day, the fire activity has really picked up. So whether we see a long fall or not here, the jury's still out on that a little bit. Indications are we might. So we'll be preparing for that and trying to strategically adjust where our people are, what their equipment looks like, and how they're going to go forward with a very cold morning and a very hot afternoon.
Surely makes it interesting for your firefighters out there. Yeah, so we did see some changes today. The Meldrum Area was rescinded down to an alert. There is an order still in place over to the west. And we want to also just chat a little bit about how orders and alerts get put in place and get rescinded. Can you mention a little bit about how BC Wildfire sort of starts that process?
Yeah, certainly. So as we all know, an order and alert is put in under the authority of the local government, which in this case is the Cariboo Regional District. The BC Wildfire Services role there is to make a recommendation to the local government on an unsafe condition or a safe condition if the order and alert is changing. So what we're doing out there is our incident commanders responsible for each of the fires are trying to do assessments on what the potential growth might be and what risk that might pose to the public. And if they see things that concern them, they look at growth modeling, they look at the science behind it and see that the fire might grow towards a community or perhaps a highway corridor that's very important for evacuating people in and out, or maybe an important piece of infrastructure like a hospital. They will look ahead and make a decision to possibly recommend an order and alert. So again, there's lots of science behind it. It's on the shoulders of the incident commander for each fire. They use a lot of input from many people to make that call. And once they have a feeling that something isn't looking safe, they will go forward to the local government and make a recommendation with a map and a particular area. And again, weather, fuel, topography, those are kind of the factors that we look at, Tim. We also will look at our fire, and if the fire has passed some tests already, i.e. the fire has stood up to some wind events and not grown significantly, it also helps them to adjust their decisions and try to think of that public safety piece first and foremost.
Yeah, and you've certainly been talking a lot about that, and we've seen that over the past week with our alerts and orders changing. There's been a number of rescinds, so that some of these fires have passed that test, and therefore you've recommended that those be reduced down. So just a few facts off the start. Since July 6th, when our Emergency Operations Center, which you'll hear called the EOC, that opened up on July 6th, and in those 51 days, we've had over 120 order and alerts issued or modified. Currently, we're at 11 alerts and 6 orders. Roughly 5,500 people impacted, and 855 of those are on order as of right now. So At the peak point in time, though, we were up to 37,000 people affected and over 25,000 were evacuated. So it was a pretty big number that we were working with there for a while. And I remember at one point in time, this map was pretty pink, and it's changed quite a bit in the last few weeks. So, yeah.
It certainly was, Tim, and I know that I would like to assure people that our staff out there making these decisions, obviously safety is our top priority, but we are also trying to find a very good balance between safety and not being too conservative. We're always trying to keep communities operating as much as they can, keep the economy flowing, but again, those decisions are tricky ones. They have a lot of people putting input into them. They're not taken lightly. They're probably some of the hardest decisions that any incident commander has to make out on site. He seeks input from the management staff here at the Fire Center as well. So certainly just want to reassure people that we look very closely at that. And again, at the back end, when we're trying to rescind an order, it's something that we reevaluate multiple times a day, every day. There's all kinds of operational inputs that go into that. Again, not something we sit on, not something we take lightly at all. We recognize the impact of those recommendations to the communities for sure.